I've thrown it out there. In this current configuration, and the Phillies win.
Unnamed text here. The whole bullpen was damn horrific yesterday, and I see a lot more of those dates coming throughout the summer than being good. They have a tough schedule for the next 6 weeks, too.
All right, well, we'll see. We'll see. People seem to evaluate. Nationally, people are evaluating the Phillies very well. Power rankings number 2, that's nothing to sneeze at.
And I think they're number 2 in the athletic power rankings. If I'm not mistaken, they're number 1 according to MLB power rankings.
Yeah, MLB.com has the number 1, but our unnamed texter here from Florida says, 0 chance you could trust this bullpen in the playoffs. If we're being honest, it's horrendous what we have with the back end of our pen and with our offense. Bill needs to take off the red-colored glasses.
Oh,
I think it's the first time you've ever been called a Phillies homer.
I know, because I was anti the way this team was built going into the postseason last year. Look, I want to see them do something to the bullpen. I think we all agree. See, here's the crazy thing.
You're a man who has a lot of – this is very unusual because you have a lot of faith in what they are. Although you just said 51%, which throws me because you think they're fine with Kepler and Wilson and Marsh and Rojas and Romano and Strom.
I said 51. I said 51% with the Romano, Kerkering, Strom back end of the pen because I'm afraid they get overworked before October comes if they don't do something to help them in that bullpen. But we also know there is help coming, and you played the clip earlier with Dombrowski talking about how starters are going to be moved to the pen. We know Walker will move once Nola comes back up. Now, an interesting thing that happened in our YouTube chat with our own Ray Dunn, you and I keep assuming the left-handed arm going to the pen would be Ranger Suarez. Mm-hmm. Ray is floating the idea of Christopher Sanchez being the starter that goes to the pen. Ray, make that case because this is an interesting one.
Yeah, it was pointed out to me yesterday that he hasn't thrown more than 90 pitches in a start since that weird Mets start in April where he goes like 2 or 3 innings, and it was, at that point, is something wrong with Christopher Sanchez, something wrong with his elbow, are we going to monitor it, what's going to happen with him? Since that time, he hasn't thrown more than 90 pitches in a start, and when you really think about the back-end guy that they need, we keep talking velocity. If there's a guy that could see an uptick that would actually make him that dangerous in that type of scenario, it probably wouldn't be Suarez, it would be Sanchez. Do I think it's their likely path towards it? No, but I think he's probably the dark horse. I think Ranger Suarez seems like the obvious one for a lot of us because he's played in that situation before. He's been a bullpen guy before. But when you talk about the stuff that you're looking for out of the back end of a bullpen for a left-hander right now, Sanchez fits that profile
actually
more.
A very good point. The only problem with that is, and you're right, he's got upper 90s back end of bullpen stuff that would play. His command is not as solid as Ranger Suarez's. Ranger Suarez's command, which is very important for a reliever. Now, you're going to throw a guy in there in a really high-leverage spot. You better make sure he's got good command.
And that he's ready for that type of moment. Like, I don't know how he reacts coming in with runners on base.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That would influence his command. But it is something to think about. If they're desperate enough to do that, they would probably have to do it. All right, let's move on to this rumor that a lot of people pick up on. Rhys Hoskins. Right-handed power bat, the configuration would be completely different. I don't know. I guess you can make him a DH at times. You want to play Schwarber in left field, but pretty much you would have to move Bryce Harper to an outfield spot and then maybe move Castellanos to left field or have Harper play left field. I don't know which they think would be the better scenario. They would have to make a roster move as well, and what would they do with that roster move? Are we really believing that would be a good upgrade? Are fans believing that? Rhys is a very popular player.
I think fans would love it because Rhys is a popular player, and you're right. It does satisfy that right-handed power bat. I would just have a hard time believing that they would do that because, you'd have to move Bryce to the outfield. And then, I know you're probably going to be anti this, but does Max Kepler become your center fielder in that situation? So if you brought in Rhys Hoskins, you put him at first, you put Bryce Harper in either left or right and Castellanos in either left or right. Well, now those guys are everyday players. Does Max Kepler slide to center?
Yeah, it hurts your defense.
It hurts your defense, but I guess late in games, do you bring in Rojas? And then you trade Marsh.
Here's the other question. What would it be the cost? Rhys is having a good season. He's hitting .282 with 7 bombs and 29 home runs. He got 48 hits. And we're going to see him this weekend. And obviously, that's why we're talking about him. And you're listening to the Mike Missanelli Show on WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station. We're broadcasting from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. So he would be a right-handed power bat. He would definitely improve your lineup. And the only thing is, could you live with Bryce Harper being moved back to the outfield? And would he be welcoming that with open arms?
Yeah, he didn't want to do that when they let Rhys hit free agency and go to Milwaukee. So would he be willing to do it now? Now, we keep going back to that article. I forget who it was, Ray. Was it Rosenthal? Was it Stark? Who was it that had that article about in the offseason when Harper said he would have moved to the outfield for Pete Alonso?
Rosenthal, I believe.
Was it Rosenthal? So that's where I think we're getting this idea that that Bryce would, in fact, do it. Look, if the Brewers are out of it, they're going to be willing to trade him because he's in the final year of his deal. There is a mutual option for next year. I don't know. You think Bryce would do it for Rhys? He said he would do it for Pete Alonso. Would he do it for Rhys Hoskins?
Well, who would you get? Okay, he's going to be a free agent, right? So he doesn't have a lot of value for a prospect, but they wouldn't give him away either.
He's 32. Mm-hmm. Would they do it for...
Would it cost you Abel?
Like, would you do it for Brandon Marsh and Mick Abel? Would you do it in that situation? Or Rojas and Abel, one of those guys? Because you're not going to have enough... You got to get rid of Rojas and Marsh, or you would...
Mick Abel is a luxury at this point, right? So I wouldn't cry crocodile tears if I had to include him in the deal. Rojas and Abel to bring Rhys back?
Yeah. Would you do it?
I think I would.
But you got to get Harper on board.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's contingent on Harper. How many people would do that? How many people out there in Radio Land, and we'll hear from the text board, and your call 610-632-0975. Rhys Hoskins for Abel and Rojas and or Marsh.
Here's the one dilemma with that, though. If you trade Abel for Rhys Hoskins, you can't trade Abel for a bullpen arm. So I don't want to sacrifice building back that bullpen now that Alvarado's done by giving up maybe one of your best prospects. I don't want to give up Aiden Miller. I don't want to give up Justin Crawford. I don't want to give up Andrew Painter. So is your best trade chip in the farm system Mick Abel? And if you do it for a right-handed bat, you can't do it for a right-handed reliever. I'd rather see them do it for a right-handed reliever.
You would.
And just roll with Kepler, Marsh, and Rojas.
You think that the higher priority will be a back-end relief pitcher that rather than more pop in your lineup?
Yes. Especially a guy that strikes out a lot.
All right. 610-632-0975. It is time to continue our Scrubs Howard spelling bee.
Oh, boy. Here we go. 1 for 1. The pressure, Ray. Now I know how you must feel every Wednesday for general knowledge.
Bill, the word is astringent, as in Melania Trump must find a really good astringent to clean off her makeup before she retires to bed with a sloppy, stinky man.
All right. I'm not 100% confident, but here we go. Astringent.
Yes.
ESTRINGENT. Astringent.
Incorrect. Astringent. ASTRINGENT.
Is it really an A?
It's an A.
This man was a bona fide scrub.
Bill,
he can't play.
You are 1 for 2.
Ray, was that an embarrassing misspelling? I feel like that's a tough word.
Totally embarrassing. That's a word everyone uses every single day. How do you not know how to spell that?
Astringent.
Astringent. That's a bad one on my part. Now, Dawood wants Ray to spell frustrated, he said in the YouTube chat.
Ray can spell it. He just can't.
ANNOYED. Annoyed. Annoyed is the word.
That was a tough one. That was
astringent was tough?
Yeah.
That was not tough. You got the whole thing right except for the first letter.
Damn it. I should have asked you the nationality, origin of the word.
I'm surprised you my sentence you didn't have that little chuckle about, but that's okay. I'm used to not getting the chuckle.
I'm locked in, dude. I'm not going to give you the McCarthy chuckle when I'm locked in.
I thought it was actually chuckle-worthy, but apparently not. All right, back to the text board. Any Rhys text so far come flying in here, Ray?
We had Hoskins and your GM Harper. Let him walk. I'm out.
We had Hoskins and what?
And your GM Harper. Let him walk. I'm out.
Oh, that's a little anti-Bryce.
What does that mean?
Text. They're saying that the reason he hit free agency to begin with was because Bryce Harper didn't want him here. But that doesn't say whether they would want Rhys back, though.
I don't think Bryce Harper didn't want him here. He just didn't want to accommodate first base for right field.
And last year, it looked like it was the right move. Rhys hit 214, I think, last year.
Yeah.
The texter said I'm out, so they're out. I assume that's in reference to Hoskins, that they would not want Hoskins.
They would not want Hoskins.
Mike in Warminster, though. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I would be all for it. Harper back to right. That was the original plan, I thought, when we got him. Harper right, Castian left. You would tell Harper you want to win or not.
See, I don't know if I would have Harper in right. That messes up two positions, and I'm not so sure that his arm in right field, it would be conducive for his arm in right field.
So you'd put him in left?
I would probably think that he would be better suited for left than right at this stage of his career.
And then that leads me to, then Kepler has to play center. But now your outfield's got...
Or he could platoon with your boy, 3 for 30.
Well, yeah, he would be your defensive substitution, I think. But that outfield's got some pop, though, now. Harper, Kepler, Castellanos.
It's not a great defensive outfield, however.
Not a great defensive outfield.
All right. You know who surprises me as a defender? Because he doesn't look like he can defend at all. Castellanos.
Well, they tweaked him. Remember? They moved it where every single time he's coming into his left. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
He's always coming into his left. He feels more comfortable doing that. That was a good tweak that's helped him. Because he was a terrible fielder before, going back a couple years ago.
All right. 610-632-0975. We got more Rhys texts coming in, and we'd love to discuss it with you at 610-632-0975. As the Scrubs Howard Spelling Bee continues, Bill hitting 500 right now. We're back after this.
Hey everybody, it's Bill Colarulo. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so you can engage during the show, and you're not going to want to miss all the content that we post. It's not only the live videos, it's videos after the fact. It's our shorts. It's all the content you want as a Philadelphia sports fan. Looking forward to connecting.